This is where I look like Spock, or like in Star Trek. Uh, yeah, so my name is Laurent, or Laurent, if you speak French. Uh, and it's to talk about rubymotion for Android. Um, I'm not sure how to present this exactly because this is actually very new. It was actually announced 2 weeks ago. It's not available yet. This presentation is actually based on a presentation I gave at our conference in San Francisco. Every year we do a conference about rubymotion, and this is a brand new feature, and I just wanted to do a small presentation about it. Before I start, how many people know what rubymotion is? Okay. So, okay, so just for the video, before rubymotion was, rubymotion was a Ruby toolchain to write iOS and OS X apps, and now you can do Android apps in the very soon future. Uh, not today, but tomorrow. And before talking about rubymotion for Android, I wanted to do a small parenthesis, as we say in French. Um, I'm actually from a city called Liège, Belgium. You already know this city if you live in Belgium. Uh, for a lot of people, Liège might look like this, especially if you read the newspapers or watch the television. But actually, it's actually a nice city. Look, it looks like this sometimes. The It's actually very nice, or it can look like this. And this is actually very nice. This is the center. It's called the Market Square, and there are lots of cafe and restaurant, and you can drink beer. Very nice, very Belgian. Actually, I was told that Liège is very similar to Ghent in terms of a lifestyle. Very nice. But of course, if you think Liège, you think about the boulet, right? And boulet are this nice gastronomy treasure from the city. These are huge meatballs served with Belgian fries and a very nice sweet and savory sauce made of Liège syrup and beer. And why am I talking about this? Well, I'm actually the founder of rubyboulet.rb, which is the local Ruby user group, and we meet every 6 months. So normally every 3 months or 4 months when I actually have the energy to start a meeting. And it's very nice. It is all in English, so everyone is welcome. If you don't speak French, you're welcome. And I know there are people here. Tom went to the first Ruby Boulet, so it's actually very nice. And we just meet, we eat boulet, we drink beer, and we talk Ruby. So if you want to come, you should subscribe to the meetup. So if you type Ruby Boulet on Google, you won't see that page first, sadly. We are not #1 yet, so I need to do a search online optimization. I need to hire someone for it. But if you go on meetup.com, you can find it, and you can hit the join us button, and then you can receive updates. It's very nice. And that's all. That's all. Do you have any questions? No, I'm talking about, so you know what? Just for a sec, I'm going to switch my screen to, because I would like to see the next slides on my computer. So how should I do that? Alt, Alt F2, ready? Oh, nice. Wow. You're, this is insane. Awesome. So you should work for the keynote team or something. So basically, since version 3.0, we can write, we support Android, which means that you can write full-fledged Android apps in Ruby. And the reason we actually added Android support in RubyMotion is that a lot of customers asked for it. Like it was the #1 requested feature. Like at one point, if you type rubymotion on Google, and the second word that Google was suggesting was Android, so it was very big. And so I decided to implement it. And just one slide. A lot of people say that you shouldn't actually develop for Android, you should develop for iOS first. But honestly, the data clearly shows that Android is more or less winning. In 2003, the iOS market share is shrinking, the Android market share is growing. And I wouldn't be surprised, so I'm not including the Windows mobile phone in this graph, but the Windows mobile phone is actually growing. I wouldn't be surprised in the next few years, Windows Mobile has more market share than iOS. So clearly, if you write an application, a mobile app, you should really think about Android. And this is for smartphone, and this is for tablets. You can see that in 2012, iOS had a bigger market share than Android, and now it's shrinking. So I don't know the data for this year, but I bet it's going to be this, right? I don't know. By the way, I found these numbers on the internet, so they may be wrong. I don't know. This one is from Gartner, so that must be true, right? The same guys who said there should be 5 million React developer in 2012, something like that. Anyway, so with rubymotion, you can write apps in Ruby. Usually, you write them in Java, and this is a very simple hello world in Java. So in Java, they have this concept of activity, which represents, if I'm not mistaken, some sort of a feature of an application, like a screen. It's pretty more than a screen. Honestly, I don't know. But it's something like that shows something, right? It's like a window. But I guess it would be like the main controller of an iOS app would be an activity on iOS. Anyway, here, if you want to have a hello world in Java, you actually extend the Android app activity class. So you create a subclass. Then you can override the onCreate method, which takes one parameter. Then you need to call super to initialize the stuff. And then you can create a text view. You can set the text to hello world, and you can set the content view of the main activity to this text view. And this is hello world. You cannot get shorter than that. I tried to get shorter, but this is Java, right? So, and the @override is not really required, but it's actually added by Eclipse if you use Eclipse or Android Studio. And a lot of Java developers, they like to use it because they like verbose code. So I actually added it, but you don't really need it. And this is what you write in rubymotion. Much better, right? So I'm going to go back. This is better, right? So you don't seem to be convinced, right? You can create a subclass of a Java class in rubymotion just as if it was a Java class. So class main activity inherits from Android app activity. This is a Java package class that will be retrieved at compilation time. You can override the onCreate method just by typing def onCreate. Super works like in Ruby, super, right? The next thing is that instead of using set text and set content view, you can actually use text equal, like a shortcut in Ruby. You can do that in rubymotion. Anyway, this is hello world in Ruby. So you don't have to write Java anymore. And it uses a simple command line interface, very similar to what rubymotion has. So to create a new project, you type motion create --template Android, because the default is iOS right now. And hello, and it creates a directory named hello with a bunch of files in it. And the only Ruby file is the main activity.rb, which creates a new main activity for you with the onCreate method that does nothing. Very similar to the app delegate in iOS. And you have two directories, resources and assets. Resources are where you will actually have the application resources, like, for example, special icons or string files or numbers. These are actually XML files that you have to write in Android. Or you have the assets directory, which are raw assets, like You can get any type of files there, and you can retrieve them at runtime. And the asset directory is very similar to the resource directory in iOS. And you have a bunch of tasks by default. I forgot to mention, in rubymotion for Android, you don't have to use Eclipse. So it's only one, you need to use the reg file, that's all. It never uses Eclipse. It never uses XML file, so it's just a RB file. And there is a bunch of tasks there that you can actually use. The most common one is, of course, rake, which runs in the emulator. And if you're very, very patient, you will get this. But you need to be very, very patient. Like, it takes ages. Like, it's not even usable. Honestly, I don't recommend using the emulator when you do Android development. It's like, it's useless. So it's much better to run on the device. So you can type reg device, and it builds the application, and it just sends it on the device, then it starts it, and you will get this. This is a picture I took of my Nexus 5 tablet, but it works on all Android devices. And funny story, I got this phone today, actually I think 2 hours before I come here, and it's very easy to set up an Android phone for development. You just need to go on the About, the settings menu in the About direction. You type 5 times in the build number. It says, no, you're a developer. Then you can just enable USB debugging and you're done. There's nothing more to do. If you're actually done iOS development, you know that it's kind of hard. You need to get some files from Apple, like a certificate or a provisioning profile. You need to wait, and it's kind of painful. Then it's very easy. And if you want to do a release build, you can type rec release. And at one point, it will ask for a password. You need to generate a special key store if you want to do release builds, because these builds will be sent to Google Play or testers. So you can type a password, and then it's going to create an APK file. And the APK file, if you look in the Finder, it says it's a document, but it's actually a zip file. You can actually unzip it and looks what's inside. And by default, it's less than half a megabyte. It may look normal, but honestly, less than half a megabyte is a very big deal. And we will try to reduce the size even more. It's a big deal because if you look at other tool chains, they generate hello worlds that are just 2 or 3 megabytes. And it's kind of a big deal because if you're over 10 megabytes, you cannot do submissions for applications that are 10 or more megabytes. If I'm not mistaken, on Google Play, you need to create virtual disks and attach them to put the additional data on. It's really a pain in the ass, if you forbid my French. So with rubymotion, at least you don't really need to worry about that. And people will say, oh, you can use Ruboto, and that Ruboto hello world is not half a megabyte. And of course, you can keep using a favorite editor. Obviously, you should all use Vim because it's the only best editor. But you can use the other crappy editors like TextMate or Sublime Text 2 or even Emacs if you have enough memory on your machine. I know, I'm bad. You can use Vim, yeah. Vim is great. Works great in Vim. But honestly, if you really don't like Xcode and you try Eclipse once, you're going to have a bad time. Because it's even worse. It's really, really, really bad. I don't know how people can work in Eclipse every day. So to make an example, I created an Android project a long time ago, like maybe 2 years ago, just for fun, and I tried to open it in Eclipse now, and I had this window. And I took this screenshot a few hours before the conference 2 weeks ago, so it's kind of new. So this is actually the new Eclipse that they shipped in Android, right? And I have all these red bubbles, and I don't even know what's happening here. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know how to run the actual program, and I just quit the application. I mean, I spent a few minutes there, and I'm too stupid to understand, but it's. And when you look inside the bubble, they say that you cannot find a very specific package there, but honestly, this is should find it, right? So I was completely, and yeah, this is can use Vim. Works great. And you can actually use auto-completion in Vim if you like. If you do Command P, it's going to use the syntax-based file that we generate for all the Android APIs, and you have the completion for constants and whatever. So no need to use Eclipse. And of course, you avoid writing XML files. If you've done a little bit of Android programming, you know that it's full of XML, like the configuration file is an XML file. If you do UI, you need to write XML files for the layouts. The strings are XML files. It's really a pain in the ass. Here, you can actually make sure that you don't even use XML files. If you do the things correctly, if you write the UI programmatically, the configuration is a reg file. Honestly, it's possible to avoid writing XML files. It's possible. I've done it. I'm going to show you later. And finally, the big deal is that you can share code between iOS, OS X, and Android. If you write an application and you architect your application well enough to share all the UI-specific code from the backend code, all this backend code can actually be shared all across these three platforms. I was actually talking to someone before at the pizza time. Let's say that you have an address book application, and in the address book app, you're gonna have a person class somewhere with a connection to the database or connection to a web service, or this part can actually be shared across these three platforms. You don't have to rewrite them in Java or Objective-C or whatever. And the thing is that, but in rubymotion, it's not a purely cross-platform solution. So if you write an app in Android, it's not gonna work on iOS right now. I don't really believe in pure cross-platform solutions. I think that you really have to write a very specific UI for each platform you target if you want to be as native as possible. And users really like that. So in rubymotion, you have to write Android. You need to use the Android APIs if you target Android. You need to use iOS APIs if you target iOS, just for the presentation. But then everything on the backend can be shared. And I'm going to show you a demo. But for the demo, sadly, I wasn't able to mirror this wonderful device that I got today. Yes. So Christophe is going to hold it. Can you see it? Okay. So let's see. I'm going to switch to a mirror display. Are you okay? This is good, right? Yeah, it's black, right? So it's connected, right? So I'm going to go on TMP and you know what? First, I'm going to, so you're not supposed to see this, but yeah, okay. Okay. So here I created my Hello World project. So I have the reg file I was talking about. And the reg file has only one line by default. It sets the name of the application to hello, which was derived from the motion create invocation. And if I type reg t, I have all my tasks. If I type reg config, I have the configuration files. Oh, yes, that's a good thing. Just a sec. So right now in rubymotion, you have to specify in the reg file the path for the Android SDK and NTK. In the very soon future, so when we ship, it's going to be done in installation time. Right now, so I just need to copy paste 2 lines, actually 3 lines, and add them here. So reg config shows the configuration of my project. If I just type reg device, ooh, what the hell is that? Okay, just forget what you saw. It's gonna be fixed in the future, right? Okay, so the application started, and so I think you need to start the device. It's too stupid. There we go. We have the hello application here, but it's there's nothing there. It's a black screen. So now I'm gonna write the hello world stuff. The garbage that you see here is actually printed by the device in real time, and we get it in the terminal. So in here, and I can actually. I'm sure it's gonna fail because Android widget take a view. Hello. Let's interview. I think this should work. Not sure. Let's try. Yep. There you go. It's actually written, but in very small characters. That is there, right? Can you see it? So, very, very, very simple. Now I'm going to show you some of the samples we have. Ah oui, tiens, c'est pas bête. Comment faire? Non, il faut use face. Yeah, but then I cannot show the terminal, right? Ah, yes. You can try that. Or maybe photo booth. Try photo booth actually. Maybe it's gonna be tough to type. Just hold it. I mean, the other one, the samplers are actually great because I wrote the samplers on my Nexus 5 tablet, which has a big screen. So on the small phone, the phones are very big, so it's better for vision. Android samples. What do I have here? So I'm gonna show the hello sample. You see something? So vas-y scroll avec ton doigt. You can tap, or you can scroll here. Can you see the color changing? I'm not seeing. So this is a copy of the hello we have in rubymotion for iOS. It's the same ID. I'm gonna show you the source code for that sample. So we have our main activity here, and we actually, it's like the hello world that I show. We create a hello rubymotion text view. As you can see, we change the text size to 40, so now it's readable. And the text color is white. And here on this method is called when the touch event happens on the main activity. So here we set a counter, we case on the action. If it's an action hub, we print touch 6 times. And if it's a move, we change the background color to a random color. RGB, red, green, and blue, and we grab a random value between 1 and 250, or 0 and 250. Simple, right? That's it. So you can do a hello world, but I'm going to show you another one on the timer. Timer is nice. The timer is the same as the timer app we have in iOS. Okay, you can tap, and it's just a timer, right? Tap to stop. Nothing very exciting. Yeah, it works. It's a real-time timer. I'm sure you can make money if you sell it. So here, for this one is actually interesting because so here we have two views. We have the first one is the label, and the second one is the button. And these two views are packed vertically into what they call a linear layout. It's like a picking view. And Android as a system is actually very nice. It's much, in my opinion, it's nicer than iOS for that. I really don't know why iOS doesn't have a simple packing view, but well, they have auto layout, but this one is actually much closer to GTK anyway. So here we actually pack our label here, which is going to be the tap to start, and then the timer that grows up. And here this is a button. The button listener is actually connected to this object here. And what's going to happen is that when the button clicks, when the user taps the button, it's actually going to send an on-click message to this timer button listener object, which is actually the class is defined here. What we do here is that we have our timer listener class, and on the on-click method, we actually send the toggle timer message to the activity. So I could have actually defined on-click on the activity and pass self as a button listener, but here I really want to separate classes so that you can see how it works. And this is actually a pure Java method that's going to be redefined by the compiler. I'm going to explain how it works later. So in toggle timer here, we either go back to the start position by canceling the timer if it's running, or if it's not running, we start a new timer and we schedule a task for it. And again, here, the task is going to be an instance of timer task object. And timer task object is defined here. And the run method is going to be called when the timer runs. It's going to be called every time the timer is actually running. So every 1 second. And this is actually the funny part. So if you try to change the text field in this method, Android is going to crash, complaining that you try to change the UI in another thread. The thing is that a timer has a separate execution thread. So, and in Android, every time you do UI stuff, it has to be on the main thread. So we need to find a way to send a message to the main thread where the activity is running. So for that, we actually use what they call handlers. An handler is very similar to GCD queues if you do iOS development. So basically, it's like a queue, and when you create it on one thread, it means that all the messages that will be sent on that handler will be sent on the same thread where the handler has been created. So here we create it on the onCreate method, which means it's going to be created on the main thread. We keep a reference to it here, and here, when we actually post a message to it, it's going to be sent to the main thread. So, and the funny part, now I'm coming to the funny part, this post method expects a Java object that implements the runnable interface, the Java lang runnable interface. Normally in Java, what you should do here is that you should create an anonymous class that has a run method and do your stuff there. It's going to be like 10 lines, 6 lines, whatever you fancy you write Java. But here, in rubymotion, the proc object implements runnable. So you can pass a proc with a nice syntax from Ruby 1.9. So ain't that cool, right? Honestly, I find it very, very cool, but it's just me. So you can pass a proc instead of a 10 lines of Java. Anyway. No, it has to be an object. Maybe in the future, but it has to be an object right now. So this is the timer. I'm going to show you one more. The paint, maybe. This is the trick. You can paint stuff. And it changes the color every time, so very simple. You can clear and start again. Very simple. And the source code for that. It might be complicated to describe. What's nice is that we actually have a subclass of an Android view here with a custom onDraw method where we actually do the logic for drawing the lines. And this one is very similar to UI view in iOS and the draw rect method that you have to redefine if you want to customize drawing. So Not yet. Very soon, yes. I'm working on it. Actually, yesterday I wrote, actually implemented a TTR accessor. So it's actually brand the moving target. We'll ship the beta next week, and we have import directive. Right now, you have to write the full path. But yeah, so this example, I'm not going to describe it later, but it's not very hard, especially here. Yeah, here we actually keep a track of all the paths that we draw. Keep it here, actually. Every time we action down, we keep an object here, and right here we draw all the paths. And here we actually get a custom color for a path. So a random color. Anyway, and maybe this one is actually one more. Then I talk about it a bit. This one is working, and I'm impressed. As if I click on the button, then it says hello from JavaScript. You can click many times. Okay, I'm not touching the button, but so this one is very nice because happening here. You're clicking, right? This one is very nice. It shows that you can actually create a web view and run some HTML and JavaScript in it, and then actually expose a Ruby object to JavaScript, and JavaScript will be able to call methods on that object. So it shows that you can write hybrid apps in rubymotion. What's very funny is that so here we create our web view, right? And we load this very specific file that will be in our asset directory, demo.html. I'm just going to show you the file here. This is our demo HTML that shows a bunch of I don't really know web development, so but I'm a very bad web developer. Not even sure if it's valid HTML. So here that should be our image, right? No. Here we go. This is our image, right? And here we do actually window.demo.click on Android. That's what we do here. And click on Android is actually implemented here in pure Ruby. So we have this object demo JavaScript interface, which is instantiated here and is provided to the web view at JavaScript interface. So we create an object here and we pass it there. And our class is here, and we have our method here. And in our method, we use the same handler technique I show for the timer sample, because it has to be on another thread. As you can see here, I actually wrote a command to keep that in my brain. And when the user clicks the button, it calls the click on Android method, in which we actually load the JavaScript wave function. And the wave function is defined in the HTML file. Anyway, the funny thing is that since ice cream sandwich, which is Android 4.2, 4.3, 4.3, the method that you expose to WebKit, they have to be annotated with a special annotation. In the past, all the methods were actually exposed to JavaScript, and this was a huge security problem. A lot of people abused of that, and there were lots of security vulnerabilities. Now, Google decided to restrict that, so you have to provide a special annotation. And in Java, you would use the add keyword in front of the method, like the add override that I showed earlier. That's an annotation. You would do that. In Ruby, since we don't have that, I added this annotation method here that lets you tag methods at compilation time. So here we can actually provide the right annotation for our method. Anyway, yeah, what's happening here? Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to show you. These are the samples we have. Actually, we have one more, but that one I can show it, but that one is crashing on that device. And I have no idea why. You see, Google Play service are out of date. This is because of this message, but I don't know. Anyway, this is an app I wrote for the conference. It showed the schedule of our conference. It was a 2-day event in San Francisco. So here you have the schedule for day 1. You can click here. You have a menu that's opening here. You can select day 2. Normally, if you click venue, you would have a Google map showing the exact position there. Then it's crashing because of the Google Play service. I have no idea why. It's not rubymotion's fault. It's because we bundled an old version. I have no idea why. These were our sponsors for the conference. And this is a very specific screen. What's actually interesting is that in this application, this menu is actually a third-party Java library that Google provides to write side panes. It doesn't ship within Android. It ships within Android, but it's not built in. If you want to use it, you need to bundle that very specific jar, which is an archive of classes, Java classes. And in rubymotion, we can actually bundle third-party jars very easily. So very simple app. Just going back to the presentation now. Yes, okay. This was the demo, right? So how does it work now? I'm going to explain how rubymotion for Android is implemented. So this is the technical part. And the first part is the runtime. And the runtime is actually the version of Ruby that runs at runtime. Stupid, but so it's Ruby, and it's actually a brand new implementation of Ruby. It's brand new. It's all code. It's a new code base. Nope, brand new. And when I before doing rubymotion, I created MacRuby, which was an alternative Ruby implementation. And at that time, I promised myself to never work on a Ruby implementation again. And now I'm doing it again, so I'm a weak person. But it's brand new, and because it's brand new, we actually have to we're actually using a Ruby spec, which is a set of executable specifications maintained by the community, and we use Ruby spec again to make sure that it's real Ruby. And I'm rediscovering Ruby by working on that. All the very small details I forgot. And the main difference between with this implementation of Ruby is that it has a unified object model with Java. If you compare rubymotion and Java for an Android development standpoint, they both run on the Dalvik virtual machine, and which is not a true JVM, sadly. It might be the reason why Ruby is not very performant on Android. Dalvik is actually very different, and so both Java and Ruby runs on top of the same virtual machines, and this virtual machine exposes a set of Java APIs that you can use to write applications. The APIs are called Android. Dalvik is the virtual machine. Java is the language that people tell you to use, but honestly, you want to use Ruby, right? And in Ruby, to interface with the Dalvik virtual machine, we actually rebase the object model using the Java native interface, which is a C-based API that the Dalvik virtual machine exposes, so that you can actually call into Java and create Java objects and do everything Java in C. And we wrote Ruby with that. So the object model in rubymotion for Android, Ruby classes are Java classes, Ruby methods are Java methods, Ruby objects are Java objects, and Ruby exceptions are Java exceptions, and vice versa. When you create an instance of a Java class, Ruby, and you get an object back, it is the same representation in the virtual machine as if the object was created in Ruby. So there is no bridge, there is no conversion, there is no different runtime, it's the same. Honestly, this is what Ruby should have been, but I don't know. Well, they rewrite Ruby in Java, but it's different. They don't actually have a true unified object model. Here, it's actually very native. We don't actually use Java at all. We interact right with the virtual machine. So the object model is very tied to Java 1, which means that we don't actually have we don't need to create proxies. We don't need to convert messages. We don't need to convert exceptions. So it's actually very fast. And also, the built-in Ruby classes are based on core Java classes. So this is just an example. There are many more built-in classes in Ruby, but for example, the string class is actually a Java class that implements Java lang char sequence, which is an interface. And a lot of Android APIs, actually most of the Android APIs, when they expect a string, they expect an object that implements Java lang char sequence. For example, the setText method on the TextView class expects a Java lang char sequence. So you can pass a Ruby string, it's going to be the same. No conversion needed. Array is actually directly based on Java util arrays, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the exact same data structure as a C-type array. Hash is the same as a Java util hash map. Anyway, very simple. The numeric classes are based on the Java lang types. Big num is actually, so I was actually surprised that Java has a big num class. Actually, I'm not a Java developer. I did Java at university a long time ago, and I forgot about it. And what? In Eclipse? No, actually, it wasn't even Eclipse at that time. I don't even remember. Oh, it was a Microsoft. It was something in Microsoft. They forced us to do Java applets. It was a university. They forced us to do Java applets. Yeah, the guys told us it was the future. At that time, Sun was still alive, and Sun actually they went to our school and they wanted to hire people. And that's funny. Now Sun is dead. But yeah, So depends that Java has a big integer class that actually maps very well with big num. So big num is actually Java map big integer class. The regex class is actually a Java util regex pattern. And this is nice because actually Android implements this class using ICU, which is a library provided by IBM to do a, okay, to speed up. What? It's nice. What? That's Apple. Yeah, so in iOS, Apple is a really big proponent of ICU either also. And in rubymotion for iOS and OS 10, I actually implemented regex using ICU. And here they also use ICU for this class, so it has the same semantics. So there won't be any difference in regular expressions between rubymotion for Objective-C and rubymotion for Android. Same thing. And finally, threads are actually subclasses of Java lang thread. So you can actually pass thread objects to API that expect a Java lang thread. Also, forgot to mention that the runtime is purely reentrant, exactly like the other implementation of that we have on iOS. So there is no global lock. Everything runs fully parallel, as it should be. But, the memory management is actually delegated to Dalvik. So we don't have a garbage collector. We use the garbage collector they have. So there is only one GC running at the same time, and it's the Java one. And actually, the Dalvik one is actually very nice. It's purely generational, so they run different collections so that you can actually collect, you can destroy young objects quicker than others. It's fully concurrent. The objects are destroyed on other threads than the thread they've been created from, so very efficient. And every thread has a allocation pool so that when you allocate objects, it's actually faster because there's this pool of objects that you can use, and each thread has its own pool. And honestly, it's I really like it. I really don't understand why Apple doesn't want to use the GC. But Google actually wrote a very nice one. And also, I forgot to mention that the Android GC is able to detect cycles, of course. So if you have two objects that refer to each other, because the GC does several passes, it's able to break cycles very easily. In iOS, you need to use weak references. Programmatically, it's a pain in the ass. Anyway. And so there are basically two types of references that that the Delphic GC offers, exposes. There are actually more than that. There are actually 5 types, but I'm just going to show 2 of them. The first one is a local reference, and the other one is a global reference. Local references are usually created on the stack, on the scope of very specific methods. Usually when you leave a function or a method, the local references are destroyed. Global references are more for constants, when you create an object and you want to actually keep a reference outside the scope of the function. So the creations by the local references are created by default. Every time you send a method to an object that returns something, that something will be a local reference because it's actually in the scope of your method. Global references are created explicitly. For example, when you set an instance variable to an object, we actually have to create a global reference because this object is now referred globally inside the memory of that very specific object. So that's a global reference. And the 2 very important things to keep in mind is that the local references are destroyed at the destruction of local reference is determined at compilation time, while the destruction of global reference is happening at runtime. Yes. Yes. Oh, you mean when you use instance variables for the views? Ah, yes. Yeah, because yeah. 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 Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the only reason we keep the only reason we create an instance variable is that on another method we want to change it. So that's the only reason. Yeah, so you can use local reference, and the thing is that we create our object as a local ref, then we call the set content view passing that object, and then that Java API is going to retain it. So I'm just going to show you how the GC works in rubymotion. So we have this foo method that creates, well, let's say it has this code, right? We start here. I'm an artist. I actually draw an arrow in Keynote. I actually wanted to do an animation, but I couldn't figure out. So here we have a x equal object.new. So, hey, wait, what's happening? Okay, so when we execute this line, it's going to create an object x in memory. It's going to be a local reference. Then we go on the next line, y equal object.new. And of course, it's going to create object y. Now we go on this line, add z equals object.new. And add z is an instance variable, right? So it's going to create a global variable in red. I use red for global reference and blue for local reference. Yeah. And actually, right after we create a global variable, object y disappears, is destroyed. The reason why it is destroyed is that if you look at the rest of the method, it's not used anymore. Y equal object new, y is not used in the method. So the compiler actually generates code that says, right after this line, well, y, we don't need it anymore. Just destroy it. Then we call bar, which does, I don't know, creates a beer. Just call a bar. We create another beer. Then we print x. So it's going to print x on the terminal. And right after we print x, we destroy the local variable, the local reference, because as you know, as the rest of the method doesn't use x anymore. And at the very end, our global reference persists. So it's actually important. The local refs are really destroyed. The destruction is determined at compilation time. We try to destroy it sooner, and we also destroy it after. So what we do is that all the local refs that remains, because I'm not sure my algorithm is actually good. Well, so as a safety measure, we destroy them. The reason we do that is that GNI has a very stupid limitation of 128 local refs that you can create in a method. So if you create 128 local variables, then, and believe me, I reach the limitation very soon. For example, if you do a loop, if you do a while loop, you can destroy your stack very easily. The items. So if we don't do that, so it depends. It depends actually on the loop. If you actually do that on each line, and if you do that more than 128 times, it's gonna crash. But it used to crash. No, it's not gonna crash anymore. So actually, I discovered that problem when I was running RubySpec, and at one point I was running a lot of RubySpec. And if you know what RubySpec is, it's like a spec. So you have describe something, then you have a block, then you have it something, then you have a block. So you have describe clause and it clauses, whatever. That's weird naming. And at one point I had describe. So what was happening? Yes, I had describe clause, then like a shitload of it clauses. And all these it clause take a string literal, right? And there was more than 128 strings, so which is why I added that feature. But yeah. I'm not sure I understand. Yeah. Yep. Yes. No. The no. The global variable. Well, the array will be destroyed, but it's not going to impact the global references. Actually, the references. So global ref and local ref are just pointers to objects in memory. So as long as the object has a reference to it, it's going to remain alive. Okay, so that was just the GC. And so the compiler, that's the fun part. And the compiler is using LVM, which has the best logo ever. And in rubymotion for Android, the Ruby source code is actually compiled into machine code for GNI, Java Native Interface. So there is no Java transcompilation, there is no bytecode transcompilation. It's pure machine code, which is also a difference between rubymotion and gRuby. So in a very specific, very simple hello world, we have this onCreate method, and the compiler is going to generate two functions in LLVM instant representation. LLVM uses this language called IR, which is like a portable assembly language. And here we're going to create two functions. I remember now. The reason we actually create two functions is that the first one is going to contain the machine code representation of the method. So all the Ruby expressions that you type are going to, they should be there, are going to be represented as instruction there. So this is going to be machine code at the end, the first one. And the second one is actually going to be the step that we will insert into the Java virtual machine to Dalvik. And the second one calls the first one here, as you can see. We invoke the second one. This is an exception under clause so that we can catch Ruby exceptions. In rubymotion, exceptions are actually C++ exceptions. So we actually implement them using entire 64-bit exception. So we call this method. This is going to have the pure Ruby code compiled in transform into machine code, and this is the step that we insert into the VM. The reason I'm showing this is that this first argument is the GNI environment. So we actually generate a function that conforms to what the Java virtual machine expects, and it's actually very cool. So all these methods are going to be native in the Dalvik application. Android uses DEX as the bytecode format for the virtual machine. It's totally different from the other format that other JVM uses. We have to create DEX bytecode at build time. The reason is that the Dalvik VM does not allow you to create classes at runtime. That's the limitation. So we have to, in a way, create the classes at build time. The cool thing is that we only have to create the DEX bytecode for the class interfaces. So the actual implementation is still native, it's still machine code. The interface is actually DEX bytecode. We have to do that. So if we take, again, a very specific example, we have two methods there, onCreate and dispatch touch event. This code, with this code, we'll actually generate this bytecode, this DEX bytecode. And here, so we create our, here we go, this is the name of our class. This is the package that we create. You can customize the package in the rec file. By default, it's your company, hello. Hello is the name of your project. This is a superclass. And these are the two methods that are actually created in the DEX bytecode. As you can see, we have the name of the method there, dispatch touch event and onCreate. This is the signature, the Java signature. V stands for void, Z stands for long, if I'm not mistaken. But access, in access, you can see that it's public native. Native is important. Native means that the method, the source code of that method is not in the DEX bytecode, it's actually elsewhere in machine code. So we generate bytes code, but only for the class interface, not for the actual code. So if you take a rubymotion app, you cannot use the Java decompiler to get the source code back. Well, you would get just the simple interface, but you will not get the actual code. I'm going to speed up a little bit. We emit dwarf metadata at compilation time. Dwarf is a format that's used normally to describe C-based languages for debugging and profiling. It was created, if not mistaken, as part of the GTB project. And if you use C or Objective-C or any C-based language, they use this format to describe the metadata of an actual program. How can I describe that? So basically, yeah, the debugging information, exactly, the debugging information. So the compiler generates that very same debugging information. And here, this is the debugging information we generate for our method. And for example, we have the source, in this debugging file, we have the name of the file where the program comes with the line declaration, line 10. Then we have the log PC, IPC. These are addresses in the binary that specifies this method starts in this memory and ends at this memory. Which means that you can actually connect a debugger to a rubymotion application and set a breakpoint to main activity.rb line 10. And then the debugger knows that it has to break at the onCreate method. But it's mostly used in rubymotion for Android to symbolicate backtraces. So here, when you have two methods, here, for example, we call foo, and foo we call does not exist. So it's going to create an exception, right? Because does not exist doesn't exist. So we'll get a nice exception in the terminal. And this information here, the source file and the source time, is going to be derived from the dwarf metadata file at runtime. Well, we since Ruby exceptions are Java exceptions, we raise it, and by default we print it. We print all exceptions that are raised, and then because nobody catches it, the JVM just say, oh, it's a fatal exception main. It says you shouldn't do that. And I'm actually working right now to make sure the Ruby source and source file and source time is actually present in the Java backtrace. So right now it's actually printed first, and then you get the huge Java backtrace, which is like you don't care. But I'm going to work that. Finally, the build system, and this is almost finished, I promise. In the build system, we take RB files and PNG files, and we convert them into a APK file. An APK file is like a zip file that contains the application. And if we look inside the APK file, it has a libpayload.so file, which is a shared library. And this is the file that will contain all the source code of your app, the machine code of your app, plus the rubymotion runtime. This is going to be the biggest file of the APK file. And this is machine code. This is really machine code for ARM. Then we have the 100 manifest XML file. This is the configuration file of the app. Normally, this is the file that you need to maintain if you use Eclipse. In rubymotion for Android, we generate this file based on the rec file. And we have classes.dex. This is the dex bytecode that I showed earlier. This is the dex representation of the code that's going to be there, right? So it's very important to keep in mind that this is not the true code. This one you can actually disassemble it, but you won't get that. You won't get actually the true machine code. Then there is a directory called resources where all the images and whatever are going to be copied. And finally, there is a meta-inf directory that contains the code sign information. So if you sign an application for development or for deployment, it's going to be there. And before I gave this presentation, 2 days before, I submitted my first Android app to Google, and it was approved in like 4 hours. It's like they don't even care. And actually, I have a funny anecdote because before I wanted to create my app, so I went on the Play Store and I didn't have an account. Right? They said, "Do you want to create an account?" And I was logged as my personal Google account, right? Gmail account, whatever. So I say, "Do you want to create an account?" I say, "Yeah, sure." He say, "What's your name?" And I say, "Well," so I type the name of my company, HipByte, and it says, "Okay, do you have an email address?" And I say, "Yeah." So I put info@hipbyte.com and down. I had my HipByte business account created like this. They don't even verify that you're actually really who you claim to be. So I was actually very worried about that. Anyone can. I mean, I could create a company like, I don't know, Disney, or yeah, you can create any. So what? Apple? I don't know. But yeah, so when you create a company, it was actually a business account. So I really specify I'm a business, right? So I expected some sort of I don't know, verification, but they know. For Apple, I mean, they ask you for the DNUS number. It takes like 3 weeks to get it. They ask for your identity card or something. Google just say, hey. Anyway, and this was the first app that we submitted. And this is the app I showed. It's actually on the Play Store. It's less than 1 megabyte, as promised. It has Google Maps integration. It has a lot of things. And sometimes it crashes on launch. I don't know why. Because it's because of the Google Play service that we integrate. but it's there, and it took like 4 hours to get admitted. Anyway, if we, I use this image because the presentation was in America, so I wanted to get an American feeling. I should have choose something more Belgian here, but I don't know. Maybe a picture of a prime minister, like we need you. Anyway, the that slide is really about that. Well, so all this stuff is actually in beta. It's going to be in beta next week, and we really need people to test it to report us. The main reason is that it's a new implementation of Ruby, so there are lots of bugs, and we have a few months of work in order to stabilize it and make sure that it's as good as rubymotion was when it launched. So there is no way we can actually ship it to everyone right now. So we really need people that. So if you're a rubymotion user, you can actually. So at the time I wrote that site, the form wasn't online yet, but now it's online. So if you go on blog.rubymotion.com, the first post is actually a post that describes the Android implementation with a lot of technical stuff. At the very end, there is a pointer to a Google form. You can type your name, and you're in the beta. Next week. It's yeah. Yeah, it's under debate right now, but it's gonna be an upgrade to all existing users, and that's all. If you have any questions, okay. Mhm. Yep. 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 I can actually show you if you want. Let's. I'm going to show you the reg file of the conference app. Uh, this one is very nice. So this is how you actually render a project. This is the Android support v4 as the classes that we use for the drawer, the menu, the side menu. You just type vendor project, the name, and that's all. Anyway, this is all you actually, here we have this manifest and try method that you can use to provide very specific lines in the manifest file. So here we set the permission here. So our application requires access network state, access find location, internet, and write external storage. If you don't do that, the application doesn't start. Well, it starts, but not on the Play Store. And also we need to have this very specific weird permission. COM, Google, Android, providers, GSF permission, read G services. So that's how you actually set permissions here. And here, this is how we do what the hell is that? Yeah, you need to do that. I have no idea. I don't remember. But it's something that will be in the manifest file anyway. And and this is how we do this is how we actually yep. App release, else it's in development, right? And this is you can copy my private key. I don't care. This is for Google Maps, so I'm not gonna use it anymore. The what? What's the bill? Okay. Yeah. Let me do some. Um, There we go. I'm I'm gonna check it out. I have no idea what it is. I suppose it's yeah, it's really not hard to do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have no idea. I'm actually learning Android the hard way. So uh, yes. Ah, so 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 a lot of people ask us for Windows support. Linux, three people, I think. Uh, I so for at the beginning it's going to be on for S10, I think, and I don't know. I have no idea. The problem is that Windows is like mm, actually I was working for Apple before, and the reason I joined Apple is that I really don't want to do development on Windows anymore. So that was the only reason I worked for Apple, like a long time ago. So I'm not really uh, Linux, yeah, but I'm not sure there are that many because we are also a company, so we need to think about profitability. I'm not sure if there are that many people on Linux. I don't know. Yes. Yes. Oh, it's well. The main difference is that it's statically compiled. So MacRuby is still using JIT, just-in-time compilation, while RubyMotion apps for S10 are statically compiled. And also, it doesn't use the Objective-C garbage collector. It uses or a GC strategy that is based on Arc. And what else? It's basically RubyMotion for a developer. Well, first, MacRuby is not developed anymore. Uh, I'm not sure. Not sure if it's going to run anyway because it uses the GC that Apple removed. So, and the thing is that yeah, if you do a MacRuby app, you need to bend out the runtime. It's going to be a bit slower than RubyMotion because the application will be cheated at runtime. A MacRuby app is maybe 10 megabytes or 15 megabytes by default, while a RubyMotion for an app is less than 1 megabyte. What else? I don't know. We actually shipped OS 10 support like a year ago, and only now we actually see people using it. It took like a year. It's actually weird. So last week we got two very nice. I don't have internet there, so I can't show you, but there are two. Yeah, let's see. I think it's on my Twitter. Yep. Let's see. Here we go. That one is new. Yep. I was stealing pictures from Google. Putting here. Hey, okay. That's OS 10 app written in RubyMotion. For I have no idea what it does. I think it's something for artists. It looks nice, but I have no idea. Oh, also the Freckle. Freckle is an app for a time tracker. Their OS 10 app is written in RubyMotion. Do they have a blog or something? Ah, hipsters. Uh, Here we go. see. There we go. This one. So that's this app is rubymotion. So we're actually doing an interview with the guy. It's gonna be on our blog. Nope. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, we don't actually. Yeah. Unlike some people who do tool chains like titanium, not to name it, we don't ship cropware or spyware or whatever. Yeah, we don't know. Uh, I think the best is to learn the Western APIs first. So not focus on the language, focus on the APIs, and then use the language that you like. These days there are many languages. Ruby is one of them. But you can use C Sharp, you can use Objective C. You can try the new Apple language, Swift. Good luck with that. Honestly, I think Ruby is a great language, but I'm biased. I have a bias on Ruby. But yeah, I think what matters is the API, not the language. So focus on the API. What's funny is that for a long time, when rubymotion launched, the Objective-C purists were saying, you need to run Objective-C to do a development. And now they say, the language doesn't matter, it's just the API, because they switch on the new Apple stuff, right? So that's very ironic. But yes, question. For what? The Android? So I started it when we got our third employee, like it was in October of last year. So when he joined the company, I was able to because I was working. So when he joined, I didn't work on Ruby for iOS again. All the days that have been done, I didn't contribute anything. I was working on it. So I think it's 8 months, 7, 8 months of work. Now I need a vacation. Yes, yes, he doesn't like it. On Twitter, he complained that yeah, Roboto is better. Yeah, yeah, I expected that. Charles is a bit. Hmm. This is recorded, right? He's a nice. No, he's a nice guy, but he's a bit. He has some. He's emotional. So, but he's a nice guy. I should probably talk to him. And yeah, yeah, because yeah. So this is for Android, right? You can. There is another project called Roboto. So it's actually GRuby for GVM. And it turns out that nobody uses it. Like it has been there for like 4 years, and you won't find a lot of applications with it. The only application you will find are sample apps, and they are very big. And I don't want to do bad publicity, but if you start a Roboto app, it takes like 5 seconds on my Nexus 5, which is like the fastest Android device ever. So I don't even know on a like this very cheap phone that I bought. On this cheap phone, I don't even know how long it's gonna start. Uh, this is Moto G, yeah. This is the cheapest one I could find here in Belgium. But here, when you start the Hello app, boom, it's there. I can kill it. Oops. No. And start it again. You start right after right. It's instantaneous, not even a second. If you do that in Roboto, it's like 5 seconds to start the activity. Yeah. Well, the problem is that I don't think it's actually Roboto's fault. It's more the fact that no, not even Ruby. The fact that Dalvik is not really a good virtual machine. It's not a true virtual machine. So all the optimization that Ruby has, I might be mistaken, but I think it's that all the optimizations they don't work on Dalvik. Yes, on the real GVM, Ruby is awesome, but Dalvik is not the real GVM. And I know that Charles on Twitter say that Java code would always be faster than native code, uh, but No, but on the real JVM, he is actually right. But on the object, it's false. Because actually, if you look at the Android source code, it's all open, by the way, which is great. If you look at the Android source code, all the Java classes are actually written in C++, using the same API I use in rubymotion. So it's like they don't care. Yes, so I didn't talk about it, but this is using the. It's not as fast as C++. No, no, no. It's because Ruby is not statically typed. Yeah, Ruby. The way is the same. The way is the same. Yeah, but it's not going to be as fast at runtime. But we didn't benchmark it yet because we are. It's a long way. Yes. Well, it's machine code. It's not Ruby. We don't interpret it. I'm not sure what you. It's C++. Yeah. The reason is that the main reason is that Ruby is a dynamically typed language. So when it's all messages sent to objects, and every time you do that, we need to determine the type of an object, determine its class, find the method there, and call it. So we have a lot of optimizations there. We cache methods, etc. But it will always be slower than direct call in C++. C++ is not dynamically typed; they're static typing, so you can never beat a statically typed language. But you can narrow the. So the thing is that performance should not matter, I think, for applications. No, if you write, I don't know, something that really requires critical performance, then you shouldn't use Ruby. You shouldn't use C++ either, in my opinion, because C++ is a terrible language that introduces a lot of problems. Uh, hmm? Yeah, well, C++ like change 2 bytes and then like 10 times slower. Or I don't know. But yeah, it's no, it's not going to be as fast as C++, and never. But it should be as fast. Yes, 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 yes. So we don't have the REPL yet, but I'm working on it. And there is this very nice feature. I could show it to you if I can do that. No, it will be on the device. Yeah. Uh, no, no, it's not something we can do. But let's see what is it. So we have a new feature in Ruby version 3 that I didn't talk about. But see if it's this video. This is my beers app. Only the best beers are represented in this application. Wait, so that's not the video I wanted to show you. So we have a new feature, but we need to find it. But no. Uh, so actually, my one of my employees he made a video which I was supposed to post it on the internet, but I forgot. Of course, the spotlight was working. What the fuck is that? Uh, I don't think I will find it. That's a shame. Let's see, there. Let's sort on client. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But so we have this new feature where you don't have to restart the app to see changes. So let's say that you have you're editing an application in the simulator, and you have your text editor there, and you can just change the code. For example, that you can change the color of the text view and hit the save button in your terminal, in your text editor, anywhere, and automatically the application reloads. Live reload. It's very nice. I don't find I'm not looking at the video, but actually, you know what? If I disconnect it for a sec, I can check our chat system because there is confidential information. Let's see. Let me find it. No, no, we actually. So it's a 1.9 implementation, and we are backporting features from 2.0, and we try to be. So basically, when people request a very specific feature, we actually implement it. But we are not. We don't. Our goal is not really to have a 2.0 implementation because there are more higher priority things. Um, hmm? Yep. There we go. I think we have it. There we go. Oops. Here we go. View full screen. In here. And it's safe. And oops. No, it doesn't restart the app. It reloads the code in the app. So what's happening is that it JIT compiles the source code and it sends the new source code to the simulator, which re-injects it into the Objective-C runtime. This one. Huh? Yeah, it changes the frames. So this video is not good. We have a better video, but I cannot find it. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Good. Yes. 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 You don't do that. So the compiler knows based on the method you define. So it automatically adds the protocols you conform to based on the methods you define. Yes. Yes. You don't need to care about protocols. So it's like in a rubymotion for iOS. You don't need to specifically conform to Objective-C protocols. We do it for you based on the methods that you define. Oh, yes. So it's so the you don't use yeah, there are no generics in Ruby. So you just insert objects into the hash map, and you should insert the right type. So in a way, yes. in a way. And the thing is that yeah, the time system is only used at compilation time in Java, I think, for that very specific feature. So at runtime, it's going to be the same at runtime. So I expect the table view, the list view in Android to raise an exception or complain if you try to pass it a hash that has not the right key or not the right value, not the right type. Yes, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. Actually, it wasn't that hard to edit on to show something, but uh, uh, yeah, here I have my adapter, and this is the array, right? Menu title, which is defined here. So you can just pass an array of strings here. So that works. Right, yeah.